Welcome to our panel. We have it's a small panel, but it's a fantastic panel. And we will rely also heavily on all of you, so this is hopefully going to be very interactive. I would like, before we introduce us, we would like to get to know you slightly better. So, a quick polling here. So the first question we have for you is, who in this room is involved with innovation less than 2 years? Please show a raise of hand. And who is involved more than 2 years with innovation? Okay, great, thank you. Geography. Who is not from Europe in here? Okay. Anyone from the Far East, Asia? Okay, welcome. Great, long journey, long way. From the US? Welcome, great. Thank you. Europeans, how we're breaking, for anyone who is from the UK here? How many? Okay, predominantly. Fantastic. Okay, great. Good. And can I ask you also, in terms of your role, who would define themselves as a innovation influencer, moderator, facilitator? And who would define themselves as a key decision maker? So the influencers first. Who influences? Okay, great. And any decision makers on innovation? Okay, excellent. So I think you've this was, like I said, more for the benefit of your exercise, for our panelists to get a little bit of a better understanding. Last question, could I ask you, anyone to raise their hands if you have a innovation strategy? Do you have, for your company, an innovation strategy? Oh, I see quite a few there. Okay, yeah, okay. And who of you has a centralized innovation strategy, and who's got a decentralized? So any centralized innovation strategies here? Okay, and decentralized? That's about 50-50, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for participating and answering these questions. So we'll give now our three wonderful panelists here the opportunity to introduce themselves. And with their introduction will come the question why they are in innovation. So, Elizabeth, if we start out with you.
Absolutely. So, I was born in Jamaica. I didn't see any hands for Jamaica. I'm assuming that's just me. So, my name's Elizabeth Skinner. I'm Vice President of New Product Development for American Express. I've been with American Express 18 years. And when I say that out loud, it is shocking. But, yeah, sometimes a lifetime, sometimes it went by in a blink of an eye. In terms of the roles I've had at American Express, it's really been on every area of our business, certainly consumer-facing roles, product roles, marketing roles, looking at our value proposition, but it's always been in an area of the business where I can drive change or transformation. So I think in terms of why I'm here today, I have a huge passion around digital and around innovation. I had a leader once said to me, progress can only come through change and innovation, and I absolutely believe that. So I'm excited to be here today, share some best practices, and also see what other companies are doing. So thank you.
Okay, Paolo.
Thank you. My name is Paolo Andolfi. I come from Italy and I work for SKF. If you don't know, it is a rolling bearing company. So we're doing something we can touch. Maybe not every company here can do that. I've been working I'm director of innovation management, and I've been working in my company for 19 years. So it's pretty much aligned. And I'm passionate about innovation, also because I arrived here through various positions in the company, and specifically one that lasted like 8 years, 10 years in racing. And in racing, I saw the difference between normal automotive development and very fast innovation in the automotive industry. And I got passionate about how can we replicate this in many different areas of business. So what are the circumstances that create innovation?
Thank you.
So,
Matt?
Great, hello. My name is Matt Asman, and I am an innovation leader in Cisco. I'm leading a small team called the Services Innovation Excellence Center. And Cisco, for those of you who don't know, a very large IT company with about 75,000 employees around the world. And our team has the responsibility of trying to build innovation capability within the organization globally. So small team, but perfectly formed, I like to think. And I kind of fell into innovation really 5 or 6 years ago when an opportunity came up when there was a vacancy for an innovation manager. Those were the kind of roles that nobody had really seen advertised. And so I went for it and got the job, and here I am sort of 6 years later. Like yourself, actually, Elizabeth, extremely passionate about innovation. And one of the things I've noticed about it is that it gets everyone's attention. And it's a job and a role, and as a team, that's here to stay. You know, we're planning to be around for a while because innovation, I think, is going to be here for some time to come. So we're very, very much in the centre of the storm.
Okay, great, thank you. And just for to share, my name is Michael Stilger. I'm a co-founder of Qmarkets. We're a Israeli tech software startup, 7 years old, and we provide idea and innovation platform software solutions. Basically the systems where you can run challenges, campaigns, and so on. So to some of the questions. Now, I want to make this very interactive. If you have a question, we will have a dedicated Q&A part, but if you feel your question cannot wait, then just raise your hand. We'll get you involved, okay? So we want to start out with a topic that's a bit, you can't really measure it that much, but it's really, really important, and that's culture, innovation culture. How do you build an innovation culture? Now, the question to our three experts here, what are the first critical steps in building an innovation culture? What are your experiences, and what can you share with the audience from your experience, from your backgrounds?
Looks like I might be first.
Yep.
So our approach to building innovation culture, if you like, revolves around supporting innovation leaders and teams with the job of innovating. And so our approach to that is through what we call our innovation maturity model. And that's a framework, a blueprint for innovation, if you like. And what it's designed to do is to give those leaders and those teams a framework for innovation and what it actually means and how to do it. And so what it consists of is a focus on strategy and leadership for innovation and how to do it. The people and culture aspect of it as well, and how to approach that. And then finally, process and tools. So we're really looking at those areas of innovation. And we combine with that, if you like, an assessment that allows those teams to benchmark where they are today and to create innovation maturation plans that will allow them to grow their capability over a period of time. So if you like, it's quite a systematic approach. It's quite a strategic approach to innovation, and it's an integrated approach. And so that's how we tend to approach it. It's combined with some training that we do around innovation and a number of tools that we put in place to support these leaders and these teams with the job of innovation and what we're asking them to do. And I think in terms of some of the first steps to answer that point, Michael, I would say it really, for me, starts with leadership, and are we getting the leadership in place, and are we getting the leadership bought in, and are they prepared to not only talk about innovation, but are they prepared to roll their sleeves up and get involved? So really seeing that leadership buy-in and the leadership involvement and the leadership communicating is key. I also think having a really good idea about what success looks like is also really important. So what kind of innovation do you want to be doing, whether it's core, adjacent, transformational? How much of that kind of innovation do you want to be doing? And what areas of innovation are you going to focus on? So I'd say those are things for me that are pretty key when you're starting out. And finally, I would just add really having a good understanding and a definition around innovation. So having that really good definition of innovation is a really important first step.
Great, thank you. Paolo, you come from a more of a brick and mortar business, from a more traditional, like you said, you can touch and feel things still, rather than Cisco, for example, which is obviously much more tech, and American Express, which is a lot of transactional data and so on. You're working with a bunch of engineers, and everybody thinks they're wonderful. How do you get a culture of innovation going there?
Well, my experience or my opinion is that we have fantastic engineers, as you said, and all engineers are creative. They love to do this. Is what they've been doing for why they work, actually, and the really difference is about leadership. As you said, I fully agree on this. Is of course we assess leaders as well for this, but I really believe that strategy, the clarity of strategy, it's extremely important. You said what's success look like, is extremely important, because without clarifying exactly what the company is after, creative minds will start to be creative about anything, which is not exactly what we want, what we can afford. So a strategy that is telling exactly what we are after is very important. And I can see clearly there are areas in the company where this strategy is being cascaded in the right way and detailed and communicated is very clear. They're much better at being creative and innovative, because engineers or people, they know what to be creative about. When you don't have that, then you create any type of problem. You can start defining, we want more breakthrough or incremental or whatever, but people still don't understand because they are a little bit lost. So clarity of strategy is number one, and leadership. And for me, leadership is really about not managing, but leading, so showing the way and get out of the way right after. So really leaving some space of autonomy to the people in terms of budget, in terms of time, of course limited, managed in that sense, but there must be this free space, this ability to accept a certain level of risk and failure. And also the leader must be able to accept failure, intelligent failure, as we call it. So not stupid failure, but smart failure.
And do you sometimes have the problem of too many ideas? With engineers, I know that engineers, like you said, can be incredibly creative. Do you have too many ideas, too many initiatives, and how do you channel that? How do you make out of, all these engineers having great ideas? How do you channel it?
I really think that this is a problem we have, but it's not a problem of the engineers, but it's a problem of the management.
Okay.
Because really being clear what the challenge is, then you have done the job. And if you have too many, fantastic, you can filter them out. If you don't control and you don't guide your people, then you can have many ideas that are going in many different directions and you get lost. So the one reaction that I have observed is of managers saying, no, I don't want ideas because I will be out of focus than my activity. So it's better not to have ideas. That's the wrong way of doing it. The right way of doing it is to be clear about the strategy and then having a process or a method to filter those ideas. At that point, the more idea you have, the better it is, because you can filter better. If you don't have this filtering process and this clear objective in mind, then you don't want ideas, because you cannot manage.
Okay.
That is the leadership issue.
Great, thank you. Now, Elizabeth, if we look sort of in the history of financial organizations, they're not necessarily known for their being incredibly innovative. Yeah. They have money, right? And they try to make more money with that money. And of course they are very product centric. Now, American Express is very well known for focusing on customers. Yes. Just before most banks discovered the customer, American Express treated customers really well. What in your organization helped to trigger certain cultural aspects? What helped American Express to foster a culture of innovation, to bring it up and in something as challenging as a financial institution?
Absolutely. And I think for American Express, so we're 166 years old. I don't think you get to 166 if you don't know how to innovate, transform, evolve in line with the marketplace and in line with consumer needs. So I think we've always, exactly to your point, Michael, been very customer-centric. I think what's happening right now in what is a very disruptive marketplace is we're looking at digital-first companies, some in the financial services space, so PayPal, and in other sectors and other industries. And these companies, these digital-first or only digital companies, are really for us setting the bar on innovation and almost taking customer centricity to the next level. So there's a couple of things we're adopting from these companies. They all have very lean and agile philosophies, a lot of it based on old design thinking and design philosophy. So that says, one, the customer is the center of the product development process. So from start to finish, they're co-creating their products with customers. So it's really customer centricity at the next level. So how do we bring that into American Express? The second is the speed at which they can move. So everything is around rapid design, rapid prototyping, minimal viable products, so MVPs. How do you do paper prototypes, functional prototypes? So a lot of it is the speed at which you can get to market. So how do we bring that into our culture? You can imagine a company the size of American Express. We need to adopt a little more lean approach in terms of product development. And the last bit is a culture. These companies all have a culture around test and learn. So it's really around experimentation. It's around constantly iterating on ideas and on products, getting that customer feedback, using that data and that analytics to improve the product. So I think from a culture perspective, those are the three areas. So I think customer centricity, again, at American Express, absolutely always been customer centric, but how do we take it to the next level and co-create? Speed to market, so MVPs, and then test and learn, and we really bring in that kind of culture of experimentation.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, Matt, you mentioned leadership, sort of people and tools, right? That's the three sort of areas Cisco is focusing on. When you're looking at the teams of the people, and I want to go basically the next step after the best practice of an innovation culture is incentives and rewards. What when you involve the teams and you have obviously some very brilliant minds there. You have a culture of innovation already exists. Usually in tech companies, it's very strong. What do you do to take them with you, to excite them, to incentivize them, to reward, or even maybe just to recognize them?
Yeah, so I think the good news is that there's a real entrepreneurial spirit within the company already. I mean, we're 30 years old versus, what was it, 166? So, there's still a really good legacy from the days of Cisco being a startup back in the 90s. So a lot of that spirit still exists, and I think that's great because there's a real appetite for innovation and being involved in innovation to begin with. So we're working off a fairly good platform already. So I'd say the majority of employees are hungry to get involved in innovation and have an appetite for it, which is great. So that's good news because organically we've got a good innovation culture. And also what you see is the millennials in our organization coming into the business today, being particularly interested in being particularly keen on being engaged. And then also we've got a fairly fresh leadership team at the executive leadership level under our CEO who also have a real appetite for innovation and a real, really championing it. I think you probably know where I'm going with this. But in terms of the third tier of our business, which is kind of middle managers, those are the gatekeepers for innovation, and I'd say that's probably where we see the biggest challenge around engaging employees and getting them incentivized and motivated to participate. I think by default there's a group there that are really keen on stability, operational efficiency, and getting results on a quarterly basis. So, I'd say that's a fairly big challenge. But I think what we're looking at now is a mixture of techniques that will, target every layer of the organization, particularly the millennials and the middle managers. So we have a combination of things. We have an innovation award structure that we use as a team. That includes some awards for participation, recognition for participation. We even have a Daredevil award, which is one I like to advertise, which is for people that have tried and might have failed spectacularly. So that's one example of an award that we give, and that might come with recognition, or it might come with some form of reward. So we have this kind of reward and recognition balance that we use as well.
Great, that sounds good. How is it with SKF, Paolo?
We do have an excellence award, and excellence is not only about innovation. There are different classes, but is the official recognition every year to the teams that have performed with a very interesting project or a customer project or new products in the very different areas. But I would say that this is my belief. The strongest way of reward is peer recognition. So if you can really show that someone has achieved something really good from an innovation standpoint, whether it is a success or a failure, then is not so important. Failure is part of innovation. And if this can be shared and shown as an example to peers, to people that he respects, that he or she respects, so you want to be recognized in front of them, I think this is the most important form of recognition. And the other is to have some time to make things happen, to have some budget to make things happen, to be entrepreneur, so to really to showcase what they're able to do. And these for me are the most important things. So you really need to give space to people. And every time I've seen people really engaged, coming up with fantastic things. I think really people is not asking that much. It's not asking for, to go on time cover or something like that, but is really to be able to do what they are passionate about doing. So they can do it, finally. So okay. We have example of these entrepreneurs inside the company that are really to be.
Excellent. Yeah. Now, Elizabeth, is it fair to say people that work for financial institutions are mainly motivated by money, or what? How do you incentivize them or recognize them? What is American Express
I'm starting to think I'm in the wrong field. I'm not making that much. Financial services. So absolutely. I mean, American Express is a top 20 brand. So the people that work there are working there because they're customer marketers, right? They have a strong sense of marketing. It's certainly a marketing company. I think exactly what Paola and Matt said is, how do you find that creative talent within the company and then almost get out the way and allow some of these innovation and these ideas to foster. So what we do within the MPD team is we create pilot teams. I think, some companies, you call them SLAM teams or pods, which are multidisciplinary kind of cross-functional SME teams that might have a core theme or a business objective. And then we have that group kind of innovate and create ideas. And usually within that group, there's an engineer, there's a designer, there's someone from brand and communications, someone from technologies. And really, we allow them to be autonomous, so self-governant, make decisions, move very quickly, develop prototypes, get them in front of customers, and then allow that to then feed back into the business units when we have something we think is taking off. So I think, I wouldn't say financial services is lacking in innovation or lacking in creative minds.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, I think it's a case of how do you find those pockets around the company and just allow them to move forward. I think similar, we have an annual innovation award, we sponsor hackathons in local communities, so we definitely do different things that elevate innovation and elevate the creative ideas that are generated within the company. But I think, these days it should be happening in every business line, right? If you're moving your business forward, you have to be innovating. So it's more a case of how do we just focus it, to Paola's point, on the right kind of company or business strategy.
Yeah, it seems to me that, like I said before, American Express very innovative and definitely leading in the financial sector in many ways. If the three of you would have to say one word, what's the key motive or the key point to get people involved? Is it money? Is it peer recognition, or is it seeing the idea through to the end and implementing it? Which one of those three would you say?
I can't add number 4.
You can add number 4.
You're innovative.
I'm an innovation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm working, I'm going to add one. I would probably say it's that they feel valued, and it's a little bit of your number 2, which is peer recognition. I think as long as the designers and the creative minds that we have in the company feel like they are valued, then I absolutely believe that's the motivator for them.
Okay. Paolo?
If I have to pick one, is to see an idea implemented.
Okay.
Really.
See an idea
Peer recognition is a prerequisite, let's say, it's something that comes before, but if I have to pick one, seeing really something happening is the best motivation for me.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, and I have to agree. I'd say exactly the same thing. I'd say that the primary motivator would be seeing something through and being able to be involved in that. Absolutely. Yep. I think that's definitely the strongest incentive. But particularly from our millennials that we're seeing, we really notice that they want to be heard, and they want their ideas to be heard, and they want something to be, arguably done about it, which you can't do for every single idea, but that's certainly something we're seeing from the younger generation in the organisation.
Okay, thank you. Now, just as part of the, here's a, please.
How can you get them to contribute to the bigger scope? I don't know if it's something motivating, but for me as an innovation manager, I would like them to get aligned with the bigger strategy. And how you get them to contribute to this bigger scope, and not only to get an idea implemented or to have clear recognition?
Excellent question. One statement here.
Yeah, I'd say one simple technique that we use is focus challenges, where you've got a really well-defined problem or opportunity that's strategically aligned to the needs of the business, that's got the right sponsorship, and has got the opportunity for people to be involved. So the ideas that they're putting forward are obviously aligned. You've usually got a hands-ready group of sponsors at the end of a process like that can carry ideas forward and involve people in that process. And very quickly, if I might add, we just ran a very successful global challenge within Cisco, which was our Innovate Everywhere challenge. And out of our entire audience, we had employee base, we had 47,000 people participating in that contributed 1,100 ideas that then came down to 15 finalists. and then 6 or 15 semi-finalists, 6 finalists, and 3 winners, which were only announced last week. But we're taking everybody through that journey and meticulously plotting out the employee experience from the very beginning of that challenge and the education around it, through the things and the steps that they need to go through to come up with some really meaningful, let's say, solutions that solve the problem, and then involvement at the end. So I think to Paolo's point, involvement in seeing the winning ideas actually get addressed.
Great, thank you. Good question. Is there another one?
So let me clarify a few things. There's 47,000 participants, 1,100 ideas, which came in the few weeks that Innovation Challenge was open for. And in terms of controlling it, there was a big cross-functional team involved. So I'd say hundreds of people actually involved in managing an Innovation Challenge of that kind of scale, whether it be the team that are coordinating it, the team that are globally communicating it, the team that are judging and providing subject matter expertise, the review team that are up there at the end of the process selecting the winners, and then the ongoing, it doesn't stop there. There's now a really great opportunity for those participants, particularly the winners, to join one of our innovation centres and work there on a 6-month, let's say, rotation. But then all the others that didn't make it to the final are being supported in some way as well through a big cross-functional effort.
Right, thank you. I have a question for the audience, and I need your participation, your help here. I struggled last week. I was in a meeting, and maybe together with the panelists, we can come up with a really good answer here. I was in a meeting with a large, fast-moving consumer good company, and the innovation manager said, I'm really fed up with all this talk about people contributing ideas and running their own startup, so to speak, within the company. Because and he talked to himself, if I would be an entrepreneur, I would run a startup. I would have a startup, but I'm not. I don't have an entrepreneurial spirit. I want to come to work. I want to receive my salary. I want to take care of my family, and I don't want. I'm not this entrepreneur. So I don't want to run an idea or my own startup idea within that large organization. And he made a quite strong and convincing point, saying, if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I would run a startup, but I'm not. I'm part of this large company. How do you get someone like that? What would you say to a person like that? How would you overcome that to still get them on board, to still have them participate, contribute? Because it doesn't say that person doesn't have a good idea. It was no anger towards the company. There was no political things involved. It was purely the sentiment that he said, look, if I would be an entrepreneur, I would run my own company, but I'm not. So why do you want me to be more entrepreneurial? Because I'm not. Any suggestions from the audience, and of course from our panelists? Here we go. Hi, Elizabeth.
I think what we would say is actually there's plenty of room in big corporates to just play the game well. And sometimes that is innovation.
Okay.
Just doing these incremental things that actually lead to growth. Big companies only need a handful of true entrepreneurs that can really make game-changing moves.
Okay. So that's a very interesting thought. It goes a little bit contrary to this crowdsourcing, innovation and crowdsourcing. So, but interesting approach. No, very interesting.
We've heard a lot of crowdsourcing being a very positive force, which I believe in. But I've also read a lot that the vast majority of initiatives fail. So one question earlier said that 487 ideas to were implemented. I guess I wonder personally on your next campaign how many ideas you're going to get if you do so few. It feels like quite an inefficient way to run ideas. I look at things like the Kickbox. I don't know if people are familiar, which is more productized workshops, coaches, and think surely that's a much better experience for people than putting stuff on a platform that nothing really happens with.
Okay.
Sorry, I know some people have managed the people really well, but what happens to another 400 people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, obviously will depend very much on how transparent these ideas are managed and shown and shared across the company, but very good points. Any other statements from the panelists?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, I absolutely agree with Elizabeth, not only because of your name.
You born in Jamaica?
And that's where it all falls apart.
California, okay.
So, yeah, I absolutely think there's entrepreneurs within big companies. I think my LinkedIn profile, I even say I'm an entrepreneur, so like entrepreneur, creative spirit, but within a large company. So there's even a word for it. But if I was CEO of my own company, I would hate it, nor could I actually do it. So I think what we're seeing, certainly in financial services space, these companies start up and ideas are popping up every month. If you look at the fintech ecosystem, it is unbelievable. What actually makes it, because they've got the functional skills to deal with regulation and lawyers and servicing and operations and what it actually takes to run a company, is very different than having the idea. So I think what is very attractive about a large company is you can have that entrepreneurial spirit. You can have creative ideas, but luckily for me, I don't have to run a company and actually implement those ideas. We have 50,000 employees that can do that for me.
Okay, so that's a good argument. Have I seen? Yep, here we go. Gentleman here.
Let's say it's 5 years from now, and inside your company, does a role like yours still exist, and/or how has it evolved?
Ooh. Yeah, so candidly, the job of our team, job of my role is to set these other teams up around the business with sustainable innovation capability. I think you could argue that if you're successful at that, you go out of a job, and so I think actually, candidly, in 5 years' time, if we've succeeded and the company is innovating extremely well, we probably won't be doing the same job we're doing today. I'd like to think we'll evolve and we'll be doing something different, right? But that's how I see it.
Great.
Maybe the job title not, but the job role probably yes, I think, because I don't think this has changed so much over the years. I mean, new methods, new knowledge about innovation, but at the end, I was discussing before, my company is it's 100-year-old, and it started as a startup, exactly as a startup. So an invention, a patent, and a company, and after 10 years he was already selling in I don't know how many countries around the globe, so globalized fully in the 20s. Now, it's not so different from things we see today. It's taking another speed and another level today. It's not anymore strange. I want also to say to the question before, if you think about every successful entrepreneur, how many thousands failure there are around? This is really the point. It's a risk a big company cannot take, of course, but big company has the mean to put all the pieces of the puzzle that are missing for the entrepreneur. Usually the entrepreneur fail, maybe it's a bad idea, but even when it's a good idea, it fails because it means something else. Because it's a one-man show, two-man show, it's not enough. A big company definitely has the mean to support an entrepreneur. It's a matter how good we are in doing this. That's really the point. Instead of suffocating, really leveraging the good that there is in an entrepreneur. But you don't need thousands of them. You need 5, 10, 20, whatever. I mean, handful.
Okay.
I was going to say, to the point about are we here in 5 years, I think almost innovation like digital is it centralizes, it decentralizes. It's central, so I feel like we go through cycles, and we've spoken about this as a panel. So I think 5 years, it probably gone, and then 5 years after that, it centralizes again. So I think it's kind of riding those cycles of having innovation permeate the business, and then maybe needing to get the ground force and groundswell around it again.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. I just want to come back to the gentleman over there who was making the comment about, you know, challenges and Adobe Kickbox. And I think you've got to look at things like that as innovation tactics and techniques, and they've got to sit alongside a number of other, you know, tools and techniques that you use. And I definitely advocate taking a real strategic approach, which looks right across, you know, strategy, leadership, and people and culture, process and tools as a way to sort of set yourself up for success on a long-term sustainable basis, and that, you know, not fall into the trap of thinking the occasional challenge is going to be something that fixes or stimulates or makes innovation happen. I think you've got to look at the real underpinning sort of architecture around innovation that you need to put in place to make it actually successful, not rely on the tactics.
Okay, thank you. I think there was this gentleman in the back here. Uh-oh.
Team structure. And we were encouraged by the leadership team, so the excellent points you made in terms of what you need to set up innovation culture, to fail fast but learn from those ideas. So we must have thousands of ideas through ideation, prototyping, testing and learning. We've probably only got 1 or 2 products out to market over an 18-month period. But that was enough to set our innovation strategy. And that's something we built on. So I think the gentleman asked a question, what will we do in 5 years' time? The answer is actually right. Evolve with the organisation, you end up either supporting the growth of the market or you're continuing doing that. Otherwise, you don't get that time. But it's something that everyone in a large organisation you do need the support around you and the team to be able to do that.
Thank you. Hot question. We can swap anytime you want. You seem to have very good questions. Good. I would any more questions at the moment?
Sort of a question and a comment.
Okay, please.
So, and it's a little self-serving, given where I've come from, but why do you do all this yourselves? Why do you take all this risk on yourself? Why do you devote all these resources to a massive exercise in drifting through the ideas? Why do you do that? Why don't you, because there's plenty of organisations external to your own that do that?
Good question.
Yeah, and I think now would be a good time to sort of put into perspective some of the work that I do alongside some of the broader innovation effort at Cisco. And you know, I certainly don't want to give people the impression that what I've been describing and some of what I've been talking about is the only way that innovation is done. In big companies like ours, there's no single way to innovate. It has to be, you know, there's many ways in which to innovate. And so for us, there are 5 real pillars of our innovation strategy. One is around building innovation capability, which includes research and development, includes programs like our own around building innovation capability internally. But then we also will partner with our partnering organizations around the world, 70,000 of them. The other thing that we'll do quite prolifically is acquire organizations, from very small organizations right up to, you know, multi-billion-dollar organizations that we'll just buy. And we bought 200. So it's one every few weeks. And then the other thing that we do is we invest in a lot of innovation outside the scope of what I do, and that investment is $2 billion. And that is investment in a variety of different companies, small to big again. So it's an investment portfolio. And then the final one, really, which I think is going to play most neatly to what you're looking for in the way of a response, is co-creation. And you know what we're doing in co-creation is starting to stand up a real focus around how we co-create with our customers, how we co-create with our customers' customers as part of an ecosystem and a new approach to innovation. That also includes things like our open source approach. So we have 250,000 developers around the world that are working with us on open source. We've opened our APIs, and that developer community is helping us with our collaboration technology as well as other aspects of our technology. We're looking to grow that to 1 million over the next couple of years as well. So there's some additional examples. So what I'm trying to paint a picture of here is that there's many ways for a company like ours to innovate, which is inclusive of things like co-creation.
Okay, thank you. When you just shared, Matt, that you know, that you're procuring, you're purchasing other companies, whether it's startups or multi-million companies already. What would the three of you say to is venturing part of a innovation strategy? So monitoring your startup community and investing in that. I had a conversation with healthcare head of scouting of a healthcare company last week, and he said they bought half of a startup that invested in leukemia research. They bought that for $1 billion. Now, 5 years later, the other 50% went to another company for $16 billion. So that's a massive, that's 15 billion growth and difference. Now, if you, there is this understanding in companies that venturing, scouting can be part of the innovation strategy. Now, Cisco obviously is doing this. How about SKF? How about American Express? And obviously Cisco. Are you monitoring the startups around you? Are you considering them as a sort of a breakthrough innovation, disruptive innovation, and how do you handle it?
Historically, we have not been doing this, and but we're going to do it. So we are discussing. We have plans to do exactly this, to see how the technology is changing the market we operate in, and how the technology is changing our product, our possibility to enhance. Historically, we have always been working inside. We have been quite close in development, maybe working with suppliers, universities, and so on. But that's a different stream. When it comes really with looking at the startup landscape in areas that are in proximity to our technologies, we want to do more of that because we believe it is absolutely necessary. They are scouting different technologies. They can see many more things that we can see on our own. They can take risk and they can evolve and fail fast and quick, much better than we can. So it's definitely a strategy that we want to enhance and to do more of.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I would agree with Paolo that we need to do more. I think absolutely over the course of American Express's history, it's always been about mergers and acquisitions, and it's usually around, is there a piece of the value proposition or the product we want to give consumers or merchants that we're missing internally? And then that tends to be the startups, so whether it's biometrics, virtual reality, augmented reality, technology platforms, things that we're not doing in-house that we need to advance or kind of future-proof our products and services. I think because of the nature of the business we're in with American Express, we have tremendous partnerships with Airbnb. We have a partnership in the U.S., partnerships with Twitter, Uber, where you can use your membership reward points to pay for taxi rides. So I think we're fortunate in that because of our merchant partnerships, we do end up partnering with a lot of the kind of disruptive digital companies anyway. And then it's a nice case of how do the two value propositions, so American Express and our travel heritage, mesh with Airbnb and what they're looking at accomplishing, and how do we do that together? So so probably acquisitions, but also looking at those partnerships.
Okay, great. Matt?
Yeah, so just to add what Cisco's doing in the area of startups, there's a big focus on startups, as you can probably imagine. We have 9 Internet of Things innovation centers around the world, and each one of those is focused on a particular technology sector or a particular technology type, and is out there scouting for startups in that area. One example I would highlight is what we're doing with our IOE Innovation Centre in London, which is called Idea London. $500 million we put into that just after the Olympics as part of our Olympics legacy 2012. That's now become $1 billion that we put into that. It's set to become $5 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. And in Idea London, which is really a joint venture between us, University College London, and Johnson Controls, I think it is really working with startups in a facility that we've got in Shoreditch. And we're focused on recruiting those startups, and we're focused on giving them office space, and we're focused on nurturing them through their development of their ideas. And sometimes that's on the back of a competition that we run, which is called the Big Awards. And so I'm referring to the British Innovation Gateway, which is really the umbrella term for what we're doing here in the UK, which is part of our commitment to innovation in this country. And that is kind of being replicated across the 8 other centres that we're running around the world, each with a technology focus, and each with a mandate to recruit the right kind of startups that are going to come through and augment, supplement, work with us on creating next generation technology solutions.
Great, thank you. Question here? Tim?
One of the things you see in a lot of these incubation centres, they're all in Shoreditch, and I get, you know, it's great to talk to other entrepreneurs and to ping things off. How effective do you think the ones are that are out of town? So you obviously get a lot of innovation around medical and Oxford and Cambridge and things. Do you still think you'll get the same stuff for tech if you went for a more regional base, or does it have to be in Shoreditch?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be in Shoreditch, which is a good news. We've actually put something together called the National Virtual Incubator, which is a network of other organisations and academic institutes, science parks right across the whole of the UK that are joined to Shoreditch. So we're using our collaborative technology to join these centres together, so it is like a virtual incubator. And the other good news for you is that we're taking an innovation centre up to Manchester.
Thank you. Another one? Yeah.
Work for a charity for blind children, so a very small organization in comparison to your global companies, and maybe a bit of innovation on the spot. But what would be your advice for much smaller organizations who need and want to innovate? How do we take your best practice and embed it in an organization of 100 people?
Did you all hear that? Sorry, just to no. So the question is that how in a much smaller organization, how this the innovation best practices we're discussing here can be applicable and how they can be implemented, roughly. Yep. Okay.
Okay, I try. I think it's fantastic because what I said at the beginning, purpose is the first thing that really unleash creativity and ideation and so on. And I think that, I mean, the purpose if making money for a big corporate, it's not so exciting for people at the end of the day. It might be exciting for the shareholders, but not for the thousands of people that work there. That's my honest belief. It's not enough. It's a prerequisite, but it's not enough. In your case, I think, having a very strong purpose that matters for people, for a lot of people, can be described in goals and strategy and what you really want to achieve. And at that point, you can involve, of course, the 100 people you talk about, but you can really make it open. So there are plenty of platforms and software, online things that can be used for this purpose and really generate thousands of ideas. And at the same time, you also engage your, the communities around you and really to participate exactly like employees do. When they participate in an idea, they feel more attached and loyal to a company. The same can happen with a charity, I believe. So I don't think it's very different. Having a clear focus, engage a lot of people, giving a purpose, and then having good ideas to select. I think.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I'm up for the job.
Yeah. You have some panelists ready to help out. So yeah, I think we're almost jealous to have 100 people. I think almost to Paolo's point, by the time you get to the size of our companies, the ship becomes so big to move. So, we're trying to adopt lean and agile principles from companies that do have, 100 employees or less, just because you can move so quickly. So I think some of the principles I said around customer centricity, testing ideas and getting them out there, I think all of that you can absolutely adopt and move much quicker probably than we can. I did some work last summer with the United Way, so I think there is opportunity to find corporations and see if there's any partnership opportunities in different communities that you can partner. So then you get the added value of maybe, the marketing resources or the analytics resources from those companies, and they can help power some of the ideas you have within the charity. So I've seen that work really well. It certainly works with the charities that we partner with at American Express.
Fantastic, thank you. Yep.
Following on from the 5-year session, so do you see an upward move inside your organisations, and if so, what? And if not, then I guess is it sideways or external?
We didn't. No, not much.
So following on from the 5 years question, would you see an upwards move inside the organisations after this role, and if so, what? And if not, then is it sideways or external? How do you see things panning out?
Ooh, that's a tricky one to answer in a panel. What am I going to do next? So an 18-year tenure suggests it's going to be in the company. So I don't think it's out. In terms of up or lateral, over the course of those 18 years, I probably do like 3 laterals and then an up and a couple of laterals. Usually if it's a new skill set, or I can take, like I said, hugely passionate about innovation and digital, if I can take that to different areas of the company, I do. And that would be worth the lateral. If I'm still managing this team, it'll be up. And then out, maybe. So yeah, I think it'll...
Okay. Paolo, you just came from the seaside, right?
I would say lateral. For me, going upward is is going to be difficult, and it's not. But it is for me. It would be really great if everything that I'm learning in these years in this position, I can actually use it in a more operational role, so lateral or maybe downward, even a little bit, not too much, hopefully, but it's not up to me at the end of the day. But I really think that, at least myself in this position, I appreciate understanding a lot that is going on in the company, to have a broad view of the company and of the customer and what we can do. And then I would be glad if I can actually make it happen in really an operation, in a smaller team where, so plenty of opportunities. That's the beauty of being in a big company, I would say.
Thank you.
For me, upwards, sideways, any direction would be good. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the company, and things are going to change. So it's very difficult to predict what the future will hold. But I've been in Cisco for 10 years, and every year there's been something different. So even if you're not formally moving, say, up the chain of command, I think there's always new things that you'll be getting involved in. But a couple of observations for me are that, one, there's more recognition around a formalization of innovation roles in the company. So I'm really hoping that we'll see some better definition around innovation positions. And I think secondary to that is a need that I see to sort of start building on that and creating innovation career profiles and a career plan for innovation roles in the company. And I get inquiries from other people in our company quite regularly about how can we come and work for your team, or what kind of skills do I need if I'm going to be part of your team? What does an innovation role look like? So I think it would be great as an organization if we start to get more definition around that and start to kind of build careers and career progression around innovation. And then, maybe in the future we'll have sort of formal innovation roles at manager, senior manager, director, senior director, and vice president level. That would be what I'd like to see. And if any of those become available, then I'll be happy to apply.
And I'm sure you'd be doing a good job. One more question.
So the question we've seen a lot of a big boom in the innovation in terms of startups, but a lot of it's been around software development, largely due to the decreasing barriers to developing software. How are you seeing that kind of boom from the software side start to transition into hardware? And is that hardware development side, whether it's connected devices or otherwise, how do you find that challenge?
So I might just flip that a little bit, if I may. Cisco is, and has for a long time been a product company. and a hardware company. And over the last, let's say, decade, we've become a hardware or a product and a services organization. But what we're really seeing and why we're having to innovate ourselves, at quite an alarming rate, is we're transitioning or evolving from that hardware sort of products and services organization into a software organization. So we are really sort of doubling down on our software capability as a company. So that has big implications in terms of workforce redistribution, reorganization, reskilling, recruitment. All that sort of thing is coming into it, and at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, the need for us to really start to embrace the outside world in the process of evolving our software and evolving our technology with an open innovation mindset. So all of those things are coming at us very rapidly, all during this fourth era of IT, which is all around digitization and data and IoT, the Internet of Things, which is all about machines. So all of that is happening, and it's all happening very fast.
Same for American Express. So I think we think of the hardware in terms of the actual physical plastic and the card itself. Certainly we're seeing in the payment space that move to software, right? And the competition, if I look at PayPal and largely software-based services, they can move quick, right? They can innovate, move incredibly quick. I think what we're looking at is how do we, still become, stay as that service level brand, but it's much more around distributed services, and the form factor becomes irrelevant, right? The form factor and the hardware becomes whatever you want it to be, whether it's your watch, whether it's wearables, and then how do we integrate payments as a service within that? So certainly we're seeing the shift to that in the last couple of years. I think it goes along with everything I mentioned around lean and agile and technology platforms and just really making that shift. I think the card's going to be around for a couple of years. I don't think we're getting rid of the plastic just yet, but certainly we see ourselves as a service provider and moving to that software service.
I think there is more than hardware and software. For me, is a matter of scalability. How quick you can scale up. So in software, obviously, you can do it quite quick, and that's why a startup can be very lean and agile, because it can grow in 1 year, 2 years, it can be a big company. We have done a lot of work with small companies, acquiring some of them when we went into services, mainly maintenance services and condition monitoring for large equipment, steel mills, or big equipment. In that case, we have seen that when you have someone that is providing sensor and software analytics, these type of things can scale up quite quickly. So they are, you have a typical startup approach. There are other startups that provide hardware that must be plugged in to a complex industrial equipment. That's a different story. You can scale it up in 2 months. You need the customer cases. You have to run tests for maybe 3 years before you have the reliability to prove to other customers and to market and so on. So it's much more difficult for the startup to do it alone, because they don't have the financial means to survive for such a long time. The risk is much higher. That is where it's more interesting to work with a large company like us or other companies. So I think it's really a matter of time and scalability of not really hardware or software in that sense.
And it does sometimes, I was going to add, it brings me back to Apple, because Apple's still doing an amazing job of balancing the two, right? So it's all about the hardware and the design, while they have integrated in the software services and the platforms. So that's the only thing, whenever I think about the software, hardware, and the transformation the company is taking right now, is we've got a #1 brand out there in the world that is balancing both really well. So yeah, it's interesting, a really interesting question.
Right. Thank you. So time flies when you're having fun. We're finished. I would like to thank all of you for listening, for your active participation. I would especially like to thank Elizabeth, Paolo, and Matt for sharing your rich experience as experts. Thank you very much for that. If we could have an applause for them. Thank you.